Hey, this is Jeremy Bumpus, and you're listening to the Builder Sessions.
Welcome to the Builder Sessions, a podcast where we chat with your favorite builders.
We get to know them, their stories, and hopefully inspire you to get off the couch and build something cool. I'm Hoff.
And I'm Rosie.
And on this episode, we have Jeremy Bumpus, owner of the Hot Rod Shop and co-host of Car Fix on Motor Trend.
We talk about the important role progress plays in sustaining your drive to complete a project, and about following your passions and continually learning each and every day.
Please enjoy our interview with Jeremy.
Jeremy, welcome to the Builder Sessions.
Thanks, man. Glad to be here. Thanks for having me. It's awesome.
Oh, we're big fans, have been for a long time, and we really appreciate you coming on. And well, for those listeners who aren't as familiar with your work as we are, would you mind sharing a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely, man. Basically, I'm a hot rod builder, and that's the passion right there, is building hot rods. I started out in building mini trucks in the mid to late 90s, and we figured out really quick that we couldn't make any money building mini trucks. So we gravitated toward hot rods, and that's kind of where it's at. I host a television show. Luckily, I've been able to teach people how to do some of this stuff, and I'm grateful to be able to do what I do. I get to play with toys all day long, and it's so awesome to have people walk in the shop and go, man, you have no idea how lucky you are. And it's like, yeah, I just get to build these toys every day. It's like, how fast can we make it? How cool can we make it look? How low can we get it? It's just, man, I'm very fortunate to be able to just build hot rods every day.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's the dream. Hey, so before you got into hot rods and before you got into building, you want to share a little bit about your background and then how you got into this?
For sure. So, going back quite a ways now, always wanted to be a teacher. So I knew that's really what I was after. Right. So, I was going to school doing that. And while I was doing that, I was playing baseball. So I actually was a pretty good baseball player, had some scholarships, did all that stuff. Probably could have kept playing. But, I realized in single A minor leagues, it just wasn't a lot of money there. So as I was playing ball in college and trying to figure out this teacher thing, I was trying to figure out what I wanted to teach. So I ended up majoring in English, literature, that type of stuff. So as I was doing that and playing ball, I was also building these trucks. And as I was building these trucks, I'd have my buddies come over and like, hey, man, can you do this or do that? So I had this big scheme, right? I was gonna become a teacher, and then I was gonna get out in the automotive world for a minute, and I was going to build some hot rods and do that kind of thing. Because I think at the time, to be a Votech teacher, you guys will know more about this than I would. But back then, what I was always told was you had to have a teaching degree, but you had to have so many years experience in that field. So my goal was I was going to get my teaching degree. I was going to go out, be a hot rod builder, and then I was going to go back to a Votech school, and I was going to teach body, paint, metal fabrication, welding, upholstery, because I could kind of do everything start to finish. And what ended up happening was I graduated. I went to a Votech school just so I could get the paperwork to say I did these things. So I went to a school that had it was basically like a hot rod school. It was really cool. It's just like Wyotech. All the instructors there were from Wyotech.
Nice.
So I went through upholstery, a custom paint, metal fabrication, did all that stuff. And then I was going to leave, go do the kind of the builder thing, build for a few years, and then, try to be a Votech teacher. And the next thing that I knew, I was building hot rods, and we had waiting lists, and we had everybody seem like from everywhere wanting us to build stuff for them. And I never got back to actually teaching. And then the next thing I knew, I was on TV and I was teaching a whole bunch of people. So at the end of the day, it worked out. My dad was really super pissed off that I quit baseball. And, I didn't fulfill that thing because I know he dedicated a lot of time to that. But luckily it worked out. And I'm not, just digging a ditch somewhere and he's going, man, he threw it all away. But, it seemed to work out for me anyway. At least I think so.
So after you built him his dream ride, then he was probably okay with it.
Yeah, there's a couple sitting out here that are in my garage that are his now. So it's like, yeah, I got you a couple now. We're even now.
I want to be in your class. English teacher by day, hot rod builder by night. That would be awesome.
Yeah. At first, it was going to be, I jumped a little bit ahead, to make a long story short. But first, it was going to be a teacher baseball coach. So I thought, I'll play ball for a while. I'll do that. I'll become a baseball coach, blah, blah, blah. And it's funny how it changed because it all changed so last minute. I was in my early 20s still with that goal. And then all of a sudden one day I come home and I'm like, I'm not playing ball anymore. I'm not doing that. I'm just going to build hot rods. And then I'm going to teach building hot rods. And it immediately, the day I said that, it all changed.
Crazy. So what got you started in TV then after you went through, graduating, building hot rods? What got you into or started in the TV industry?
What's interesting about that is it was a complete accident, like never intended for it to happen. Because even like being a teacher and trying to do that stuff. And, I remember like having speech classes in college and having to get up in front of everybody. I could not speak in front of anyone, dude. I mean, you put 10 people in front of me, I would completely choke out and I could not talk. I couldn't do it. So, I never even thought about being on TV, but I happened to build. So when I decided to get out of mini trucking, I had built this little Toyota pickup. We had just shot it for mini trucking. And I thought at that point, okay, I'm going to sell that one and I'm going to build a Mustang, which I still have. So I built this Mustang, a 67 coupe in my garage, put it on air ride, got it on the ground, made it just a really cool car. Well, one of the first shows I took it to was Good Guys in Nashville. It won a couple awards or whatever, but I remember I had a guy come up and he said, hey man, you ever thought about doing TV? And I said, nah, I've never thought anything about doing TV. And I kind of told him, my background, basically just what I had told you guys. And he said, well, hey, here's my card. Why don't, let's touch base. So about a week or so goes by and I get an email from the president of the RTM over there, the first TV show I was doing. And he said, would you like to come in for an interview? So I think it was that week or the next week. I go in for an interview. I do a little stand up in front of everybody. Had never done it before. Was so scared I could not see straight. And I did that. They basically hired me on the spot. And I think I was shooting TV the very next week. So it was really unbelievable. And it all happened, I would say it all happened within a month's time. A few weeks. I was from just at a car show to being a TV host. It felt like anyway. So it was crazy to jump right into that.
So were you kind of burning the candle at both ends there, working on your customer cars at that time too, when you dove into TV, or did you not have your shop established yet?
Luckily, I didn't have it yet.
Yeah.
But that's an interesting story in itself because the shop that I worked at is the one that I own now.
Oh, cool.
So I was working at that shop and me and the owner became really good friends. Unfortunately, he passed away. When he passed away, I just kind of kept it going. So it was maybe a year or two after I did started the TV thing. So I got a little bit of a break there. Then that happened and I was like, I'm just going to keep this thing going. So about a year or two in, then I started, it got really crazy really fast because at that first show, which I'm sure Ian, Kevin, those guys told you a lot about it, it's just a 40-hour-a-week gig. So, you're working every day like everybody else. So I was, and luckily, that's a couple hours down the road. So I would go film for the week. I would come home during the weekend and I would work at the shop all weekend long. Sometimes I would drive back home on a weeknight and I would do that, and try to keep up. But man, that was about 5 years of doing that. And that was really tough because luckily I've got a good crew of guys. My wife is like, she's super talented with this hot rod stuff too.
Oh, cool.
She understands all. She can hop in and work with us.
That's awesome.
So they're kind of running ship, so luckily she's very good at it. So I didn't really have to worry about anything other than I was very anal about, I wouldn't let anybody paint anything but me. Like I just couldn't let that go. Yeah. So I had to do kind of that final inspection or, that primer blocking stage, and then I had to paint it. So then it would be where everybody's shop's going like, dude, we kind of need you to paint this one. So if you could get here, that would be great. And then next thing I knew, I was spending Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday painting. And then I was driving back and I spent 3 days here and didn't even see family. So it got pretty wild for a minute.
That probably got old real quick too.
Yeah. And that was the reason that I got out of it from the first show.
Yeah. And
kind of why I've transitioned into the Motor Trend show, because it is two totally different worlds.
Really?
With this one. So at RTM, we would shoot, 5 to 7 days for one episode. They would, edit, do all that stuff. So we had about a 9-day window or so that we would be able to shoot one of these shows. Well, on the Motor Trend show on Car Fix that we do, we film one episode in a day and a half.
Nice.
So and that's down in Tampa, Florida. So that's a bit of a haul. And luckily we get to take a lot of our cars down there. So it's some of our projects, and then my co-host Brian Fuller, some of his. But so I go down once a month for 3 to 5 days, and then I get to come home and everything runs as normal. So
that's great.
Yeah. Break and hop down.
That's awesome. I think, I don't know, at the beginning of any career, it's easy to kind of dive in and kind of get, I'm not saying you got lost in it, but for anybody, it's easy to kind of just like that kind of encompasses your world. And then all of a sudden things kind of give way, and then you sit back and you're like, wait a second, something's got to give here. Hey.
Well, we were having kids at that point and doing that stuff. And, we were starting a family, and it was really hard in the beginning to try to do that show and come back and forth and be able to make everything work. So that was a really hard decision to get out of that first show, that truck tech show we were doing, because, not doing TV before and then leaving it, basically falling in love with doing TV and then going like, I don't know if I'll ever get to do TV again. At that point it was like, am I even any good at it? I don't, at that point you didn't even know. So I kind of just hopped out. The business was doing good. It was running well. We were able to make money. And so at that point it was like, we're going to hop out. We're just going to try the business thing for a while. And then fortunately the Car Fix thing at Motor Trend kind of fell in my lap, and it was like, all right, here we go. So, it just kept getting better from there.
It must be hard to navigate being a shop owner and having a car show and doing your own builds. It's one thing to be an employee. You can come in, clock out, there overtime, certain jobs need to be done. But when you're the owner, there's a lot more on the plate that you need to, you can't just say at 5 o'clock, I'm heading home with my family, we're going out, right? There's stuff, timelines, parts need to be ordered, customer car needs to be polished before they pick it up. Like that's got to be a little bit tricky handling all those different tasks and jobs.
Yeah, it can get quite stressful. Luckily having my wife Kim there and a good crew of guys makes that a little bit easier. But at the end of the day, like, being a business owner and having 20 builds going, there's nothing that's going to be easy about that. So yeah, that's difficult. And then, and it never fails too. Yesterday is a prime example. I was going to go in that morning. I was going to order parts. I was thinking that's going to be an hour. had my whole day planned out. I literally did 0 of those things. I mean, by the time I came in, there was a customer come in. There was there's this, there's that. One of the guys had a problem with something. And next thing I knew, it was, you get there at 6, you leave at 6, 7, or 8, and you go, holy crap, I didn't do anything that I was going to do that day. And then sometimes you have a whole week like that, and you're just trying to keep up and figure out how you're going to keep things running. But luckily I do have a good crew. So, it makes life a little bit easier.
That's good. Having good people, right? Question about your passion. So when you are working on everyone else's hot rod and everyone else's stuff, well, I guess you kind of said you could work on your own stuff in the show, but does it kind of, if you work on your own hot rods or everyone else's stuff during the day, is it tough for you to wrench on your own stuff at night?
Not really.
No. Okay. Good.
It's I would think that it would, or I think what it does for me is like the things that I've noticed that I don't do like I used to do, working on cars full time and doing all this stuff, is like just my daily driver truck. Like I'll never wash it, and I don't want to change the oil in it. Like things that are so simple to go out there and do, like just go change the oil real quick. I still do it, but I would just rather take it down to some dude down the street
Totally.
and change oil. But when it comes to my custom stuff, like the 2022 Ford Maverick we did, kind of getting back into the mini truck thing and all that, my customers, I think, are even like, okay, quit working on that thing and work on mine. But at the end of the day, I'm working on it nights and weekends still.
Yeah.
And I think I'm able to see I still really have the passion for it, because like with that truck, like my wife has a car too. We've got a lot of cars of our own, and all weekend long, all I can think about is working on those cars. Like I want to work on them. I'm thinking about the Maverick. There's more stuff I want to do with it. We just picked up a 72 Datsun truck for my wife.
Nice.
To build her a crazy mini truck. And it's sitting over in our detached garage at the house, because we're going to film YouTube around basically teaching people you can build something really cool and high quality in your own garage and not have all these fancy tools we have at the shop. So that's kind of what we're going to do with that. But that truck's all I can think about. Like right now I'm thinking I want to go over there and metal shape something, so I think I really still have a big passion for it, for sure.
That's really cool. I can relate to that right now. I'm in this phase where I got this 51 International 1-ton given to me, and it's cool, and it's like beautiful blue patina, and it's been sitting in a farmer's field for a lot of years untouched, and I'm picking it up next Saturday, and I cannot wait. And then I also have this, I bought this 99 Ranger, and so I was a fan of mini truck stuff back in the days, and it's a 5-speed 2-wheel drive and 4-liter, and I'm like, oh, what should I do with this? And I'm constantly thinking about parts I could buy, or whether I should just fix it up and just flip it so I can put the money into International, or figure something out for the next thing. And I can totally hear what you're saying.
See, I planned out for this week, I'm doing this to the International. Next week, I'm doing this to the Ranger. And then I would just keep going until they're both built, because the Ranger would lay rockers and the probably it would lay too, probably.
Everything would lay.
Everything would lay.
Put some magnesium underneath.
It's interesting awesome when that passion drives it, though, right? Like just listening to you, you can hear, when somebody has a passion for something. Mine's not necessarily automotive, but like the woodworking thing, you kind of you get mesmerized over stuff, and you're like, yeah, you can't. It's hard to take a break from things, and it's always constantly on your mind. I could be at the park with my kids and have this little thought of, I want to build this coffee table with some epoxy or whatever, right? Like, I don't know, for people that don't have that, must be kind of tough, or maybe they don't know any better, but I don't know, that passion is just, I get excited to go in, and probably for you, does it feel like work lots of times when you're in there? You're doing full build, so it's not just one thing, the same thing every day.
The only time that it feels like work is, and we don't do many of them anymore, but when we do an original build, which if we do an original build, we're normally doing, like a more of a rare car. But even though they take so much research, and chalk markings have to be in the right spot, and the shims have to be their correct style of shim. When I start doing a car like that, I'm kind of like, yeah, when's this thing gonna be over? But with you, like, I'm jealous of what you do, because it's funny. I can metal fabricate and I can do all this stuff, and build these cars. But we bought this house, a year or two ago, and we've been renovating it and all doing all this stuff. And I want to do all this woodworking so bad, and it seems like every piece of wood I touch, I screw it up so bad. Yes. And I'm like, how can I build a car, and then I'll go cut a piece of wood, and I've screwed up, I screwed it up. So, and then next thing you know, I'm trying to figure out now how to become a woodworker, and it's like that's the last thing I need to be focused on. But it's like, I don't know, man. As soon as I get into anything, just like doing the stuff with the house and the wood stuff, and doing different, doing flooring or doing whatever we're doing in here, I get so wrapped up in whatever I'm doing that it doesn't even make sense. Like, it'd be something I've never done before, have never thought about or cared about. Next thing I know, I'm looking at YouTube videos, I'm reading books about it, I'm doing whatever, because I just don't want to be able to do it. I want to know how to do it and do it right, and be able to tell somebody else how to do it. So yeah, it's I definitely have passion for anything that involves your hands or building, or whether it's wood, metal, it doesn't matter to me.
That's a whole nother rabbit hole there too. I can relate to that. We finished our basement last summer, and I was thinking, do I hire out the painting or do I do it my own? Next thing you know, I'm 3 weeks watching a YouTube painter, and I'm like, I can do this. I went and bought the paint. I think it was like a $1,400 paint gun, ready to do the doors and trim. And then I finally was like, I don't know if I want to just try this out. So I ended up returning it, hiring a painter. And I was like, I'm glad I did that, because he was in and out in 2 hours, looked phenomenal. I'm like, there's some things, I don't know, you just get so engulfed. And I think with all the, like with YouTube and the stuff, like I'm a visual learner. So if I can watch a video of somebody doing something, I'm like, I can do this now. So yeah, it's kind of a whole nother rabbit hole going down that way now.
For sure.
Yeah, well, YouTube has changed everything. Like when I was growing up and learning how to play, my grandfather taught me how to play guitar. So we play guitar, and we learned how to play that way, and you play by ear, and you try to figure it out. If I would have had YouTube, man, it's like be a rock star right now. But this same thing, like we've got a little pool house over here that the plumbing was kind of busted to it. And I think the other reason for doing stuff is not being able to find anybody to do it anymore.
Yeah.
Like you can't hire anybody. Nobody wants to show up. And for about a year, I think I've been trying to hire somebody to come just do the plumbing in this thing. And next thing I know, it's like, you know what, screw it. I'm just going to go do it. And within a matter of, I don't know, a few hours, we had it all done. And I was like, why didn't we should have done it a year ago. Yeah. So, and it's funny too, like getting into stuff, it's, obviously you can get quite creative and, do some crazy stuff. But for the most part, as long as you have an understanding of how things work, most things are fairly easy to figure out. You just have to have the patience to be able to do it.
Yeah, for sure. So going back a little bit to when you got started, when you started developing your skills, was there any individual, any, I don't know, celebrity, any professional builder, anyone like that really inspired you and kind of got you set on your track?
Good question. I might have to think about that one for a minute. I don't remember anyone specifically, or anyone famous maybe. Like I was always looking at like the old school guys from the 50s, and like Gene Winfield right now, who he's 90 something years old and he's still chopping tops. It's like those guys, I followed along with that. But my dad always had, so we had this little room in the garage, and it was just full of magazines. They were all hot rod magazines. And I was always looked through them and flipped through them. But I think if I had to go back to like what really made me do it, was my uncle has a little shop in his backyard. He would just always paint people's trucks or cars. Like, it wasn't building hot rods. It was just, there might be this lady down the road that had a fender bender, and she needed her car fixed, and maybe she couldn't afford the really expensive shop down the road. So he'd be like, you just bring it to me, I'll take care of it. And watching him kind of body work stuff down there and do that. And the first mini truck I tried to build at like 16, I think we did hydraulics on it and all that kind of stuff. And then he painted it. And that just a couple of times seeing him paint something, I knew I wanted to be a painter. It was really what my passion was. So I would say my uncle was probably the biggest influence on me wanting to do it because, my dad was into cars, but he wasn't really doing anything with them, so there wasn't really anybody around to watch other than him. But as far as famous guys, I would just say those old school guys from like the 50s, like Gene Winfield and those types of dudes. Those were big influences.
That's cool.
So probably being part of
I'll say too, I don't want to I need to give these guys some credit. Ian, Kevin, and Tim Strange, those guys like that. I was watching those guys too before I was ever on TV. So that was still getting up on Saturday morning and, you might watch it for a minute, Stacey David, all that stuff.
Spike
and you see
TV.
it for just a few minutes. And it's not that, I don't know that I was necessarily watching it because I was trying to learn how to do something specific. But at the time, there wasn't really automotive shows, but, those shows. So I would watch that. And that was just enough to give me like the momentum to go like, man, I want to go to the garage and work.
Yeah.
So those guys too were still, that was a little later on. Those guys were a big influence on me too. And luckily I can call them friends now and pick their brains and try to steal ideas from them. So yeah, it's awesome.
Cool.
I think that working with the hands, right? And whether you're working with metal, you're painting, woodworking, a whole bunch of these different, trades or hands-on, you can sit back after, painting a car. How long does a car take to paint, right? You sit back after you're done, you're like, holy crap, that's awesome, right? Some of the things I think take a little bit longer, and maybe they're, in some of those jobs, it's a little bit longer to see the end product. But when you're working with your hands and building and you're welding up a bumper or, block sanding and stuff, it's almost that instant gratification, and then you're hooked, and you kind of see that, whether it's hour by hour, day by day, the progress you're making, and it kind of, re-energizes you to keep going with that project.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with that too. And the thing, that's all I needed basically every day when I was building something, was if I could make a little progress, that really like got me going. And what I loved about it back then, I mean, I love it now with all the tools and stuff we have, but just thinking back on it, I told this story just a couple of days ago that I was trying to build a trans tunnel in a car because I had basically laid the thing out on the rockers and I was doing all this stuff. I had no metal tools to do anything. And I remember that I kind of got a cardboard template of this trans tunnel, and I looked around. I was like, how can I shape this metal like that? I was probably, 18 at this time. And I walked outside and I remember looking at a light pole and I was like, light pole, and I took the cardboard template out there and it was almost perfect. And I remember taking the metal out and just shaping it around that light pole, which took 5 minutes, if it even took that. I shaped it around, I went back in, it fit almost perfect. I just, instead of, I didn't have a brake either. So I put it in a vise and I just basically, made myself a pinch weld at the end of the day. And, within one evening, I had built a transmission tunnel and put it in by shaping it around a light pole. So it's like there's so many ways you can get a good end result in this stuff too, which I think is really awesome.
Yeah. So owning a shop and probably, being a part of a ton of builds through Motor Trend and with your own shop, if you could build anything tomorrow, do you have a dream build? Oh,
I've had a bunch like that. That's probably like a top 100 list on that one. And we actually talked about this recently. Like, that's so tough. It's tough for me because when I say this, most builders and people in general would probably be like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. But like that Datsun I was talking about, basically what we're going to do with that, we're going to cut the roof off of it. We're going to make it a full roadster truck. We're going to graphic the crap out of it. We're going to put it on hydraulics. We're going to do it old school. Like, really, man, that fires me up like more than anything. I don't know why, but as far as like, man, I hate to say it, but it's probably still in the mini truck and stuff. Like all my dream builds are, I'd like to say a Ferrari, whatever, but it's just.
Well, those are your roots, right?
Yeah.
it just doesn't get me going, man. That stuff gets me going. Like, I know when we end this conversation, I'm going to go, oh, you dummy. So-and-so was your dream build. But other than what I've got in front of me at the moment that's kind of the dream build. I think, and at the end of the day, I think every build that I get an opportunity to do, especially when a customer is like, or my own, where they're like, hey man, you just build it the way you would build it if it were yours. Yeah. That makes it a dream build for me at that point. We got an OBS we're doing right now. We got the first roaster shop chassis for it. The owner's basically, all he said to me was, you just build the baddest one on the planet. And that's all I want. So that's a dream build, so.
I've been following that build on Instagram. I've got a 90 Silverado 2-wheel drive with the 5.7 regular cab long box. And I've got watching trucks when I was younger. I have this huge list that I want to build it up, and seeing everything you're doing with that, I'm just like, oh, damn, I want something like that, just to be like, hey, you know what? You do, this is kind of what I want. Do it. Like, man, that thing, I don't know. That's so cool. And it's kind of a commonality between lots of the fabricators and car builders and hot rod builders, is that we don't really have a dream build. It's more of, okay, the next build, because they're involved with so many things and you can kind of tinker and add your own flair to it.
Yeah. It's, I mean, it really is. It's like every one of them it feels like a dream build at the end of the day. But, I think almost when a customer comes in and they have a way they want to build it, it's a specific way, and they want this and they want that and they want this, it almost gets, it's crazy to say, that almost gets in the way.
Yeah.
It's, and it's like, so luckily for us now in the builds we have, most of those customers are, I've got, a Camaro in there now where I'll actually call this guy all the time. And I'm like, hey, what about doing this, that, or the other, or do you have any preference? And every single time, I don't even know why I call him anymore. Every single time he just goes, however you would do it, just do it how you would do it, and we've got that we're doing now that we haven't posted. We can't post it because we're going to try to go for the Riddler with it.
Oh, cool.
But 46 Hudson truck it is, man, when I say wild, like it is wild. We're in the metal phase right now. We're stretching the cab, we're chopping it, building the bed from scratch. We've built the frame from scratch. It's getting a Viper drivetrain in it. It's wild. And I hate it because I'm so excited about it and I can't show anybody.
It's like the dark horse.
That's the worst. Yeah.
Got like this huge photo album right now, and I'm just itching to just start dropping stuff out there.
Even teasing it. No, can't tease it. All good. Nope. Well, that's cool that you're going after the Riddler. That's really cool, actually.
We're going to try it. That's something that I've wanted to do, but I have a feeling it's going to be one time will be enough for me. Yeah. It's like we have people, coming wanting that, but it's just, and I love to try to build something at that level, but it is just, even my guys, are like, oh, man, this is like intense. And it's like, so I got a feeling this, I won't say it's the last one, but I'll have a feeling it might be the only one we do, other than it's just too much going on for everybody, I think.
Yeah. So getting into more of the like skill set type of questions. First of all, do you have any advice for someone who wants to get started in this industry?
Yeah, absolutely. So, and it seems like a conversation I have quite often. We had a guy in the shop the other day, and he said his son either wanted to be a car builder or a chiropractor. So, I'm like, whoa, that's two different ends, And so he asked the same question. I was like, chiropractor obviously would be a great career. I'm sure. I don't know, but I would think that's a good career. And but I told him, I'm like, to me, it's like specialty skills, TIG welding, simple things like pinstriping, stuff like that. So basically, if it's anything that somebody wants to get into, I would say kind of maybe shoot for a little more than just, being a basic mechanic. Yeah. That's still a good career. You become a BMW mechanic or something, you make a ton of money. But if you go to a Votech school and you learn the skill of TIG welding, you can't find many people that can TIG weld. If we bring people in all the time or we interview people, one of my first questions is, can you TIG weld? And I don't know if anybody's ever said yes.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah, and it just blows my mind. So we end up trying to train them how to TIG weld.
And then that takes time out of your time and your bottom line too, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So and then pinstriping, there's that's something that I'm passionate about, but I wouldn't say I'm the best at it. But I've got a guy that works for me who is a ridiculously good pinstriper, but he's done it for so long he doesn't care to do it anymore.
Yeah.
But if you go to like car shows and you watch someone who has a little tent set up and they're just pinstriping, I think they're making so much money it doesn't make sense. So I feel like this is a really good career to be in. I feel like right now it really is, because if you watch Meekum or anything like that, the modified market is going through the roof.
Yeah.
So used to be the other way around. Used to be the original stuff was bringing the money. Modified stuff, because you cut it up, you ruined it at that point. So it wasn't really bringing the money. Now it's bringing big money. So I think it's a good career to be in. My thing, if I had advice, I think, I used to be back and forth on the VOTEC, type of thing, or just the hands-on training, until I did the VOTEC school. And I felt like I was pretty good going into that. But when I left there, I was so much better, so I would recommend people to actually, take those courses, because then they're fairly short courses anyway, and they seem to be less expensive. So I would go that route. And the thing that I tell people the most now is, especially the younger guys, they want to come, they come in, and it seems like all of them, they want to make all the money in the world, but they don't have the skill yet. Yeah. And so basically when I started out, and, I could have went the teacher route and would have been a much better career at that time. I was making like $8 an hour, blocking on a car and doing that. But I soaked up everything I could soak up. I told one of the recent younger guys we had, I like, man, if you'll just soak up everything we give you, if you'll soak up, because I've got some older guys who are super talented. And I'm like, soak up what they give you, soak up what I give you, because man, you do this for a handful of years, 10 years, you're on your own. You've got your own business at that point. You charge whatever you want to charge. You've got a blank checkbook for a lot of these people. And, the sky's the limit at that point. But it seems to me like none of the younger guys can wait that out anymore. And
there's no
I
patience.
don't really understand why, but if they would wait that out, they could do anything. It can make, you could be a millionaire. I feel like, so
that's so true. Even where we're at, speaking for myself in like teaching, a lot of these students, they're always talking about, wow, I did turn this job down because, they were only giving me this much an hour, and I told them I wouldn't start for this much. I'm like, man, you're just starting out and you're so entitled about this. Yeah. Like whatever happened to so you're talking to an old guy who started out by washing sweeping the floors, and didn't get on, the next time up, or the next space up was like the lube rack or the wash bay, and then worked his way up, and now he's the owner and he knows what it takes, and you're coming in there telling him what you're gonna make. Man, you're gonna get a reality check, because they see all the. And do you think maybe social media has something to do with that? Because they see all this success and all this stuff, and they don't notice or know what the story was in the first 15 years of this person's career. I don't know.
Exactly, but even with social media, just myself and anybody else, we're not posting the bad. It's like we're not showing you how shitty this day was. Yeah. We're how terrible that went wrong. Everybody's giving you the best of what they can give you. So I think everybody sees that and they think it's just like, it's easy and it's, it's a piece of cake, when at the end of the day, it's definitely not. And used to, we'd have people come in and go, hey, if you'll show me how to TIG weld, I'll work for free. It's like, that doesn't happen anymore. You can't. And I told my wife a while back, because it's just harder to find people. I'm like, just go ahead and pay them good money right off the bat. And you can start people at good money now, and it doesn't matter. Like it's just, they'll be like, no, I don't feel like doing it today. It's like, how are you living?
Yeah.
Like,
it seems like
don't get it.
It seems like they don't. seems like they don't appreciate the process. They just want, whether it's a finished product or, well, I just want to, get up to this step. But there's a rhyme to reason. You need to learn block sanding, all these different steps to get to, these more, I guess, specialized areas. And you can't just start, doing custom rodders. You got to put in the work and get dirty. And, some of those jobs are going to suck, but you got to kind of work through that and learn through those. And with the wealth of experience that, all these different shops, I think they're a bit prone to, not soaking in all that wealth of information from some of the older guys, or, just kind of it's going in one ear out the other, and they're not really taking that whole experience in.
Right. And, one of the guys I have is, he's a legend in the industry, really. I mean, for the type of stuff that he's built. And, I've had him walk up to me a couple of times and go, I told that guy how to do it, but he won't do it that way. And, you got an 18-year-old beside a 65-year-old, and the 18-year-old already knows how to do it. And it's like,
yeah, no, you don't, kid.
Years of building cars here with your only having a driver's license for 2 years. It's not going to compare. And that's not to say that he may not be really good or be very talented at some things, but normally it's kind of like, we've been there and done that. We've seen that problem. I still learn stuff every day, and my guy tells the same thing. He still learns stuff every day, and you will, but those guys, it's just strange. It's just a different time. And, I guess I'm just not going to understand it, and I'll hope it turns around, but I got a feeling it won't.
Yeah.
But we'll hope.
Yeah, exactly. So you talked about some advice getting into this industry. What about and you've talked about, I guess, some TIG welding and some specialized stuff. What are some specific skill sets that are important to develop to get into this area?
I would say, I guess it depends. Like when I started doing it, I wanted to be able to do everything. I wanted to be able to build one bumper to bumper and be able to do it all. And not everybody wants to do that. So, I was thinking about it just a second ago with that advice question. It's a lot of guys just want to be a painter. And it's, I think some things you have to do, maybe you get into the collision world for a little bit and, you start learning the basics of just working out a ding, working out a dent, how proper filler work, proper adhesion, what's chemical adhesion, what's mechanical adhesion, all the basics to that stuff. But not getting stuck in that world. I think that becomes a problem too, because you get into that, you start making a little money. Next thing you know, you've worked for somebody else in a collision shop, just slinging body filler the whole time. Welding the same way. You go to a factory to weld. Next thing you know, you've welded there your whole life, and it's time to retire, and you never did what you wanted to do. So, I mean, I would say just, you got to follow that passion. You obviously have to learn it. And I think getting into just a mechanic shop or, just a collision shop, that can get you in the right direction, but don't get stuck there. Always have that mindset of, okay, this is what I'm going to do in my lifetime. And, you just got to stick with that. I think people get scared to do that. I think people get scared to just like, well, what's going to happen if I leave? But at the end of the day, man, that's what we took that chance. And most of us that took that chance, it's worked out well for us. So, you gotta be able to take that chance for sure.
So for someone who, let's say they've identified what they want to do, they've taken that chance, and then the Snap-on truck or the Matco truck rolls up. What are the top 3 starting out tools you'd recommend?
Oh, I guess that also depends on what exactly you're going to be doing. Like, so let me look. What were my first tools? I think my first tools were a set of blocks, because I knew, I wanted to be a painter. I think I did, because when I graduated school, I remember them like if you graduated, you got so many tools you could get from the Snap-on truck, believe it or not.
Yeah.
That's where I remember going like, holy crap.
Yeah.
I'm not Snap-on stuff.
I need a good job for this.
Yeah. I need to be the Snap-on guy, not the body guy.
Yeah.
But I think I did a set of blocks. I think I did a cutoff wheel, an angle grinder, and a set of body hammers.
Yeah.
And holy crap, how much work I was able to do with just that stuff. Obviously, you know, if you're in this world, a set of wrenches, a set of sockets, you know, your basic hand tools. But, you know, as far as welding and stuff like that goes, I had a 110 Lincoln. You know, I got a helmet, which was a snap-on helmet, which, my gosh, that was ridiculous too. And, you know, so that a set of gloves, a helmet, and, you know, some blocking tools, man, I was in, like, for a long time, that was all I had to have.
Yeah. I think it's really interesting how things have changed as well. I remember I'm a Wyotech grad, and we got 50% off Snap-on when we graduated. And so it was so tempting to just dump a ton of money into these tools.
Yeah.
And then, but now things have kind of shifted, because there was I don't know if there still is. I haven't been in that side of the industry, like on the floor, for quite a while. But it just seems like things have shifted from like this. Before Snap-on was like a status symbol, and you know, you made it as a tech or as a builder when you had like the nice Snap-on body hammers, or, you know, or the Hotchkiss, you know, like the Hotchkiss machines and stuff like that. No, Hutchins. Sorry, the Hutchins block sander and stuff. The real expensive tools. But now it seems like a lot of people, especially in light of all the DIY stuff on all the YouTube stuff, it seems like people are obviously getting similar results with not spending as much money on these tools. Have you seen that?
Yeah. So, you know, we've got a local store down the street that has your inexpensive tools, and I find myself in there all the time. And, you know, we use them. We have good luck with all that stuff. And we also have a lot of expensive tools. Now, there's certain things that I would say spend the money on, like a good TIG welder. Like I can notice the difference in a cheap TIG welder and a good TIG welder. Not like right off the bat, I don't know that I would do that. And then some of the metal tools, you know, and like a really good set of metal shears, you know, is a huge difference from, you know, some cheap ones. So you spend your money there. But body hammers and stuff, I'm using the same set of body hammers I started with.
Nice.
I don't know how old they are, and I think I got them used. You know, so there's stuff like we're still using right now. The older guy's telling you it works for me. He's got tools that he bought as a teenager that we still use in the shop every day, that were just cheap tools he bought from somebody else. So I think you can get really good results with inexpensive tools. Now there may be, you know, at the end of the day, they might not last as long as your good tool, but I don't think you have to go to the Snap-on truck and spend $100,000 in tools. It's like, I really feel like when I started out, minus, you know, getting some of that Snap-on stuff when I graduated, was I probably didn't have a couple $100 worth of tools. And, you know, I was able to make a whole lot of money with a couple $100 worth of tools.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Jeremy, this time has flown by. I just want to say thank you so much for coming on the show. This has been awesome.
You're very welcome, man. Glad to be here. Glad you guys had me.
This has been so good. So for our listeners here who want to, you know, follow you on social media or see what you have going on a shop level, where can they find you?
Yes, so Instagram, the Hot Rod Shop MS. So we've got a lot. I post a lot on Instagram, probably more than I do anything. I've got a love-hate relationship with social media, and I get pounded that I should be on it. So we try to stay on it. We've got the Hot Rod Shop YouTube channel too, and then Car Fix on Motor Trend. Man, check that out on Saturday mornings, because that's where all the fun happens.
Exactly. We'll be watching.
Yes, we will.
All right. Well, once again, Jeremy, thank you so much for coming on the show. We will post all of your social media and all the things you mentioned here in the show notes of this episode. Thanks again, and thank you to everyone for listening. For all of our episodes, all of our other episodes and our social media links too, check out the show notes of this episode. Thanks, Hoff.
Thanks, Rosie.
And we'll see you guys in the next one.